I grew up in New York City.
New Haven, Connecticut.
Denver, Colorado.
Born in Moldova.
In Israel.
Boston.
Frankfurt, Germany.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Brooklyn, New York.
The Bronx.
I remember when somebody asked me, how come that there's so many people from the East out here? I said, because that's as far west as you can go.
Coming to California was an opportunity to start over.
Always had wanted to move to California.
I wanted a Shabbat community.
I wanted to start an internet company.
Moving from the East Coast to the Bay Area was difficult.
Not originally in any way an enthusiast.
It's certainly a struggle here to participate Jewishly.
On Passover, you couldn't find a store that sold matzahs.
I hated it the first 6 months.
A little more spread out, a little more hidden sometimes.
A little bit more challenging to find it.
I struggled. I went to different shuls and services.
Once you find them, it's family all over again.
San Francisco soon felt like home.
And then I felt so free when I came to the Bay Area. There was this incredible openness.
My idea of bohemian heaven.
Hippies and peace and love.
Just a little bit of less pressure.
I was myself. I was in my element.
That's a very special kind of environment.
We're on a kind of frontier here.
We loved the interest in innovation.
Community of people who are seeking out the
There
future.
are people looking for something new.
No one's looking down on anybody, and no one's tisk-tisking.
That has transformed my life.
California was incredibly good to my family.
We have this homegrown family now.
It is where I belong.
Here, who wants to fight? We're living in paradise.
If I try to think of what the center is of my Jewish life, I feel like that's a little bit like what's the center of an onion. Like my life is Judaism. There is no center.
I guess the context in which I feel most Jewish, in a sense, is when I'm gathering the brightest people I know, creative, lovely human beings, to think together with open hearts and open minds about the world's problems and their own problems.
My name is Sarah Heitler-Bamberger. I grew up in Denver, Colorado. I'm actually 6th generation Colorado, or would be if I still lived there. We moved to the Bay Area when my husband got offered a job teaching at UC Berkeley Law School.
My name is Bobby Fishkin. I was born in New Haven, Connecticut, and then my family moved out here to Northern California about 5 years ago.
When we moved here, I think we fell in love, of course, with just the natural environment, the amazing food, and the sense of openness, and we loved the interest in innovation and the willingness to try new things that really pervade the culture here. But I think for us, one of the things that was really important was the very strong and quite unique modern Orthodox community in Berkeley.
I was raised in a conservative Jewish household, had a bar mitzvah. The part of Judaism that stuck most was that Judaism was about asking questions, being open-minded.
Since the time that my 3 siblings and I were bar and bat mitzvahs, my father taught us and a number of our friends in a weekly Torah study group.
Back in university, I was writing in the margin of a book I was reading, and I was thinking, I can't have been the first person to have responded to this text in context.
Unlike other kids who seemed to go to Hebrew school and just hate it because it was incredibly boring and irrelevant, my father's approach was to really focus on texts that he found were engaging, relevant, and very dense, and were written in the 12th century.
Over the years, I looked for what great authors scribbled in their copies of Shakespeare. I was fascinated by what I found because they each said different things.
So our Jewish education focused on learning what I later learned to be somewhat esoteric, what's called Musar texts about the Jewish ethical tradition.
And that process, that research of looking at what these authors wrote, got me thinking about digital text and our ability to comment on it in context.
But to me, that was what Judaism was. And it was only once I went to college and beyond that I realized that wasn't actually the education that most Jews had had.
Now, this does hark back to a very old Jewish tradition. The Talmud was the first text in human history to preserve the counter-arguments and the arguments that lost the judicial rulings many years ago in Jewish law.
I and my brother and 2 other Jewish educators started meeting regularly around my kitchen table in Berkeley to start brainstorming what would a new Jewish organization that really met our needs look like.
I came to the Bay Area 4 years ago because I wanted to start an internet company. It's a company that lets people annotate digital texts, allowing every person to talk back to the text, to Talmudify the web, Talmudify the text. It felt like a great process of asking the right sequence of questions.
We came up with the idea of what has now blossomed into an organization called Keva, which supports pluralistic study of classical Jewish texts for Jews from around the Bay Area.
I came to the Bay Area because it's a useful place to be for starting a tech company.
Really what we're trying to do is to import a model that's been incredibly successful in evangelical Christianity, and this is the idea of small group Bible study.
I always thought that the thesis of the Bay Area, that it really did reflect a community of people who were seeking out the future and had these amazing, not just business inspirations, but inspirations with regards to social responsibility.
People are very interested and open to the idea of engaging with classical Jewish texts here, but they often just don't know how to go about doing that. So I think that's why people have been excited about Keva.
It took a while to track down the subset of Northern California that reflected my values of curiosity and inquiry.
Well, it's sort of an out-of-the-box idea, like we're not building a synagogue, we're just building the small groups program, but people seem to have a pretty high threshold for absorbing new ideas out here.
What has become apparent to me in a beautiful way is that there is a critical mass of people willing to ask profound questions here.
Whereas if we were in, New York or Boston, maybe people have said, oh, you can't do that. That doesn't look like any other business model that we are familiar with. Here, people were like, oh, cool, great. I want to organize a group. That sounds fun.